In today's video I buy a Leica M10-P, perhaps my dream camera. So what happened? I think it's time for some real talk. Hi guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. If you saw my recent video, I just bought a Leica M262. Why have I now just bought a Leica M10-P? Before we get to that, I think we need to get back to basics and do some real talk. In my mind, Leica don't make bad cameras. This may sound rich from a Leica fanboy, but I honestly believe if you ever try a Leica camera, for the majority of users, I think it's going to touch you to a point where you'll never forget that experience, and you'll probably at some point end up buying a Leica camera. I was with a student yesterday and exactly the same thing happened to him. He bought a Leica Flex SL, he enjoyed that. He bought a Leica M2, he loved that. So as always what happens, he ended up buying a digital Leica camera. We'll talk about that one in the next video. Now I think the really important aspect that I often overlook, and maybe other people overlook too, is you only get incremental differences between each iteration of the same model. Let's say you've got a Leica Q. If you buy the Leica Q2, it's only going to be maybe 10% better than the Leica Q. So then there's the question, do you need to upgrade? Same for the Leica SL, SL2S, SL2. They all feel like exactly the same camera when you're actually using them and actually taking pictures. I guess the exception would be if you bought the Leica Q3 or SL3, because those are maybe more like mainstream mirrorless cameras, because you now have the tilting screen and faster autofocus. Today we're not talking about autofocus or flippy screens, we're talking about Leica M cameras. If you buy any digital Leica M camera, you're going to enjoy the same amazing Leica M rangefinder experience, assuming you like playing with rangefinder cameras, regardless of whether it's an M8, an M9, an M240, MP, M262, M10 or M11. So knowing all this, why do I just spend days comparing whether this camera's 3 grams lighter than this camera, or this camera's got a smaller red dot than this camera? I seem to have watched every video, read every review online, trying to understand what will be the best Leica M camera for my needs. Now the problem is, if you've ever been struck by a serious gas condition, gear acquisition syndrome, the pressure just kind of mounts up in your head where you're like, I need to buy this camera, otherwise I'll never be happy in life. And so what happened was, when I was looking to buy a black Leica M camera to replace my M10, which is currently in Germany, see that video, I just got it into my head that I needed to get a camera with no red dot, the script on the top plate, because I just think that looks amazing. We'll come to that. And so for that reason I bought a Leica M10-P. Now if you looked online, these are seriously expensive cameras and not something to be going into half-hearted. I found the listing online and I was really excited, so I quickly rang them up, bought it. I was like, done, now I can relax and get on with my day. Over the next 24 hours I'm like, that's a lot of money. Maybe I can get almost the same experience for a slightly cheaper camera. So that's what led me to looking at the M262 and the Leica MP240. So now I've got the problem, I've just physically walked to the shop and bought the 262, but coming in the post in a day or so is the Leica M10-P. So yesterday I had a workshop and I decided to take both cameras with me to make a final decision on which camera is right for me. The idea was, hopefully I'll be happy with the M262, then I can save a lot of money and send the M10-P back, because the M10-P is pretty similar to my M10, which I've already got, which, as I say, is away in Germany. So what did I learn at my own workshop? What I learned was I had both M cameras, M10-P and M262, both in the same small bag, and I was taking one out to then the other one out, taking pictures. If you'd blindfolded me, apart from the width, if I felt the width of the M10-P, because it's a narrow camera, I can honestly say I wouldn't have known which camera I was using. I was exactly the same in terms of satisfaction, whether I use a 262 or the M10-P. Both cameras took great pictures, and if you showed me two pictures on a screen, I couldn't really say that I could tell the difference between photo 1 and photo 2. The photos from the 262 look very similar to the photos from the M10-P. So if we look at this practically first, is the M10-P that much better than the M262? If you need a quiet shutter, you'll prefer the M10-P. But I would say it's actually too quiet for my model photography, because often many models work on the click sound. So I found if I've had students using, say, M11P, if they can't hear the camera, they're like, what do I do? And they don't know whether to move or not. So strangely, a louder camera is actually better for model photography, which should mean I would be better with the 262. The 262 is also lighter, and it's also got a battery that seems to just last for days. I've used it for 3 days of shooting so far, and the battery is still going. I'm just going to keep using it until the battery runs out. To give you an idea of how light it feels, it's like picking up a Leica M camera and then going, oh, I forgot to put the battery in, because it just feels like that much lighter. You look inside, it's like, the battery is inside. Now, what about the M10P? The M10P gives you live view, and that would have helped during my workshop yesterday in multiple situations. The first situation was some high up shots where I was trying to photo through some trees. Second shot was me trying to get a really low shot without having to like lie on some like dirty gravel. When you've got live view, you can obviously just look at the back of the screen, but on the 262 you've got no screen live view to look through. And secondly, live view is useful if you've got any non-calibrated or badly calibrated lenses. So some lenses that I've got won't be exactly calibrated to my M262. So what I'd do normally with, say, my M10, or in this case the M10P, is I'll just flip it to live view, and then I'll use live view to do my precision focusing. You can't do that with a camera that doesn't have live view. You've also got the high ISO benefits of the M10P if you shoot in the dark. Not sure if I've already said that. And if you're getting really nitpicky, just things like the on-off. On the M10P, it's literally on or off. And on the 262, you've got single shot or continuous shot. And I often accidentally knock it to continuous, which then means I'm taking more photos than I wanted to. It's a small thing, but those are the things that make a difference in the long run. Now, those are the practical differences. Now, what about the emotional differences? Do you call it emotional differences? The visual differences. So if you see my work on Instagram, I tend to photograph beautiful models rather than normal people in the street, because I'm very drawn to beauty, beautiful things, beautiful flowers, beautiful people, beautiful cars, and in this case, beautiful cameras. It really matters to me how a camera looks if I want to have like the ultimate camera and I'm buying one camera. The M10P is just that much better than the 262 for these really silly differences, which are no red dot and the Leica script on the top. And if you want to get really silly, the Leica M262 is smooth on the top, where the M10P has got a really nice texture, and that narrow waistline also makes it feel a bit nicer. It sounds really stupid, and I totally get it. It's like, what is he talking about? But it makes a difference. I thought it'd be okay by not having a P version if I just taped up my red dot, but it just looks tatty and kind of messy, I think. So I bought some black circles to see if that will be more aesthetically pleasing, and yeah, hopefully that'll make me happier. If not, I'm just going to take all the tape off and have it with the red dot showing. So with all that said, what is the conclusion? I think if you're buying a camera to look at, to maybe have on your shelf, and you just want to admire it every day, the P cameras are definitely worth getting if you like the look of the P cameras, or whatever camera you like the look of. If you're merely buying the camera to take creative photos, it doesn't really matter if you get a older Leica M camera or a new Leica M camera, as long as the functionality of the camera works within your needs. Let's say the workable high ISO, things like that. I can hand on heart say that I can take exactly the same photos with a 262 as I could with a M10P. So I need to take that out of the equation. But if I only wanted one camera, I would still get the 10P, because you may as well get the camera that you enjoy using. And so in conclusion, which camera am I going to send back? In my mind, there's never really an option to keep the M10P because of the price difference, more than 50% price difference compared to the 262, and maybe 10% improvements. And also because I've already got a black M10 in Germany. Now there is a caveat. I found maybe a loophole, a hack, call it what you want, where I might be able to convert my existing M10 into an M10P. Stay tuned, and as I get more information, I'll let you know. And if you're interested in the Leica M11P, look out for the next video, because I don't know, all my students seem to bring M11Ps to our workshops. As always, thanks to my amazing patrons, and if you want to see more content, click the link to Patreon below. You can join Patreon for free, and I will put links to the new ebook on Patreon first. So if you're interested in the ebook that's coming and all the other stuff that I do behind the scenes, check out the free Patreon access below.